Okay, so here's the problem. You're working the register at the oldest McDonald's located in San Bernardino, California. Due to issues with the grocery supplier, the food chain is only able to sell French fries and Big Macs. On top of that bad luck, the electricity stops working and your cash register powers off. In order to get paid, you must report the number of French fry orders sold and the number of Big Macs sold. You forgot how many of each you sold, but luckily you remember that you sold a total of 175 Big Macs and French fry orders combined. It made a total of $488.25. Each order of French fries costs $1.89, and each Big Mac costs $3.99. How many orders of French fries were sold and how many Big Macs were sold? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to highlight the important information. So we know that the prices and the quantity of French fries is important. So let's see what we can do. So we know that there are 175 Big Macs and French fry orders combined. It's important, and then altogether that makes up $488.25. And then each order of French fries is $1.89, and each Big Mac is $3.99. So I am going to show you how to solve this problem using 3 different methods. The first one is going to be using substitution method. The second one is going to be using matrices. And the third one is going to be using a graphing calculator. So we have to define our variables. So we have to ask ourselves, what am I trying to solve for? What don't I know? So in this problem, I don't know how many French fry or Big Mac orders were sold, so that's what each variable is going to stand for. So let's let x equal the number of French fry orders sold, and let's let y equal the number of Big Macs sold. Okay, so now we can write 2 equations. The first equation is going to be related to the price of the French fries and Big Mac sold. So we know that each order of French fries costs $1.89, and each Big Mac costs $3.99, and the total of them equals $488.25. So let's write that into one equation. So we have each order of French fries is $1.89, and then put x plus 3.99y, and that equals 488.25. So you see the correlation of these 2 variables related to the price. And so then the second one, we're going to use quantity. And so we know that in total, there were 175 Big Macs and French fry orders combined. So let's write that. So this one's going to be easier. It's just going to be x plus y equals 175. Okay, so let's see what these are. So we know that this is the price of an order of French fries. This is the number of French fry orders sold. This is how much a Big Mac costs, and this is the number of Big Macs sold, and this is the total price combined of both of these orders, and the number of orders. And then this is just the number of French fry orders plus the number of Big Macs sold is 175. So now let's solve the system using substitution method. So we're going to use substitution method. Okay, so let's rewrite our 2 equations. So it's 1.89x plus 3.99y equals 488.25. And then our second one is just x plus y equals 175. Okay, so now what we're gonna wanna do, we're gonna solve for y to get this equation in terms of x. And then we're going to take that equation and plug it into here. So we're gonna substitute it into for y. And then we're gonna have this equation in terms of x, and then we're gonna solve it. We're gonna solve the equation for x, and then from there we're gonna get the number of French fry orders sold, because that's what x is. So let's rewrite this. So x plus y equals 175. Let's subtract x from both sides. And you have y equals 175 minus x. So now we're gonna substitute this in for y, because of the substitution method, and see what that happens, see what it does. That equals 488.25. So now we're going to distribute the 3.99. This equals 698.25 minus 3.99x, which equals 488.25. Perfect. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to combine like terms, so we see that these two terms are alike because they share x, and then these two terms are alike. So now let's combine like terms. So I'm going to keep the x's on this side and keep just the numbers on this side. So it's going to be negative 2.1 x equals negative 210. Perfect. And so then we're going to divide 2.1 by both sides, from both sides. And we get x equals 100. Okay, so now that we have that, now we can substitute this into this to get y, because now we know that there were 100 orders of French fries, but now we have to find out how many orders of Big Macs were sold. So how many Big Macs? So let's plug that in over here. So we have y equals 175 minus x. You know that x equals 100. So you just do that, and you get that y equals 75. So now you know that, so your solution to this system is 175. And if we go back to our previous to our let statements, we know that, so x is the number of French fry orders sold, and y is the number of Big Macs sold. So we know that x equals 100, so that means there were 100 French fry orders, and we know that y is 75, and so we know that there were 75 Big Macs that you sold. Perfect. So there you go. So this is our first method. You can check this method. We can just check it let's just check the method, see if it works. So we can just plug in these two answers into the first two equations to see if they're actually, if it's true. So let's plug them in. So so our solution was 175, and let's see if it works for the first equation. So our first equation is 189x plus 399y equals 488.25. So let's plug in x and y, see if it works. So we don't know if this works. I'm going to put a little question mark over there. And so 1.89 times 100 is 189. 3.99 times 75 is 299.25, and that equals 488.25. Well, we don't know if it equals, and so let's see if we simplify it. It actually does equal, so 488.25 does equal 488.25, so that means this works for this equation. So now for the second equation, it's a lot easier because it's smaller, so x plus y equals 175, and so we get 100 plus 75. Does that equal 175? And matter of fact, it does. So we know that this answer works for both of the equations. Perfect, so that's our first method, the substitution method. And now our second method is going to be using matrices. Okay, so once again, I'm going to write down the equations. So it's 1.89 x plus 3.99y equals 488.25. Perfect. So now, oh, and then the second one is x plus y equals 175. Perfect. So now what we're going to do, we're going to write these two equations as a matrices. So we're going to go like this, 1.89, 3.99, 1 and 1. So I'm going to do x and y is going to equal 5 and then 175. Perfect. So then this works because if you use a dot product, it'd be 1.89x plus 3.99y equals 488.25, and then x plus y equals 175. So it works. So now what we have to do, so remember, so let's say if we call this matrix A and this matrix X and this matrix B, it would be AX equals B. In order to solve for X, because that's what we want to do, we want to solve for X and Y. So X would have to equal A, so the inverse of A times B. And we know that the formula for the inverse of a matrices is this. So if we have A, B, C, D, and we're trying to find the inverse of that, it's going to equal 1 over AD minus BC times D negative B, C, negative C, excuse me, and A. So now let's try to find the inverse of A using this formula. I'm just going to rewrite it again, just in case I forget. CD equals 1 over AD minus BC times D negative C, negative B, and A. Okay, so we know our matrix A is equal to 1.89, 1, 3.99, and 1. Perfect. So now let's try to find, so the inverse of this is going to equal 1 over 1.8 times 1 minus 3.99 times 1 because of the formula. And now let's switch the position. So this is going to be 1, negative 3.99, negative 1, and 1.89 because it switches positions here, then it makes these negative. Okay, so now let's try to simplify that. So we get that this equals 1 over negative 2.1, And I'm gonna put these into fractions so it's easier to multiply it in. So it's gonna be 1, -1, and it's gonna be -399 over 100. It's gonna be 189 over 100. Perfect. And so then I'm also gonna put this into a fraction, I guess. It'll be easier, so it'd be 10 over -21, and then I'm just gonna copy that in. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna just multiply it all out. And if you multiply it out, you get that the inverse of A is -10 over 21, 10 over 21, 19 over 10, and -9 over 10. So remember with this, you just multiply it to each part of the matrices. So now let's go back to our matrices equation, which we have was, so let me just go like that, 1.89. So we have this, and we have now a to the -1. So let's just like rewrite this whole thing, having our a to the -1. So it's going to be xy equals, we saw the inverse is -10 over 21, then 10 over 21, then 19 over 10, and then -9 over 10. Perfect. And then we have to multiply by b, and b equals 488.25, and then this equals 175. Perfect. So this makes sense because this is the matrices of x. So the x matrix equals the inverse of A, which we found was this, times B. So now let's just use multiplication rules and see what x and y equals. So we always go row times column. So it's -10 over 21 times 488.25 plus row times column 19 over 10 times 175. And so the second one is going to be row times column, so it's going to be 10 over 21 times 488.25 plus -9 over 10 times 175. And if you simplify that out, let's see what that equals. So if you multiply that in, you're going to get 232.5, and then this is 332.5, and then this is 232.5, and then this is -157.5. And like it or not, when we simplify this, we get 175. So now this is the second way to solve using matrices. So the first way, we just used system of equations, and we found that it's 175, so 100 French fry orders and 75 Big Macs. And here, using matrices, we found that we again have 100 French fry orders and 75 Big Macs. Love it. So that's our second way. So now let's move on to the third way, which is going to be a lot quicker. It's just going to be using a graphing calculator. Okay, perfect. So now let's just move this over here and get my calculator over here so you can see it. Okay, so let's rewrite the two equations in 1.89 x plus 3.99 y equals 488.25, and then x plus y equals 175. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to write these in terms of x, so I'm going to solve for y. So the first one, let's solve the first one for y. So we have 1.889x 8.25, and now let's solve it for y. So we're going to subtract 1.89x from both sides. That's going to be 3.99. Y equals 488.25 minus 1.89x, and we're going to divide both sides by 3.99, which then equals y equals -9 over 19, x plus 2,325 over 19. And so then let's solve the second one for y. This one's going to be easier, so it's just x plus y equals 175. And so now just subtract x from both sides. So you get that y equals -x plus 175. Okay, perfect. So now let's move on to the calculator. I'm going to try to move this a little closer to you. So we have our two equations here. This is our second equation. So what we can do is write the equations into our graphing calculator. So we have y equals -9 divided by 19, x plus 2,325 divided by 19, and then the second one is just -x plus 175. So now I'll make sure the window's right. I did this earlier. So for my window, I just put 0, 150, the scale just to be 2, and then 0, 150, and 2. So then when I graph it, this comes up. Okay. Oh, sorry, because I added a comma here by accident. Sorry about that. Let's just graph it again. Okay. Sorry. Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, so now what we can do, we go second trace to get calculate, and then we're going to try to find the intersection. Because remember, these two are lines, and since they're not parallel, or they're not the same line, they have to intersect in exactly one point. And that one point is where x and y is gonna be the same for both equations. So this is what we're gonna find. So it asks you what the first curve is. You just put it a little close to the first curve, and ask what the second curve is. So you do it a little after. And then you guess, just press enter. And then it tells you that the intersection is 175. So let's write that back down. So we have 175. So that means, once again, that we have 100 French fry orders and 75 Big Macs. So now if we compare all our answers, we got the same answers for all the three that we used. I'm just gonna write 2 on here. So for the first method, we used substitution, and we found 175. And then using matrices, we also found the same thing. And then lastly, using graphing calculator. So if we wanted to show this, our results on a frequency table, we could just do orders and the frequency. And let's do French fries. And Big Macs. And we know that we sold 175. So that's how you would write the finished product on a frequency table. Yeah, so this is my final project. Hopefully you liked it. Thank you for watching.